With over 20 years of combined recruitment experience, Bastion is your trusted advisor for sourcing leaders. Technical experts in supply chain recruitment, Bastion uses a proven customer-focused delivery. Speak to a consultant today for your recruitment needs. Bastion, experts in sourcing leaders that deliver change.
Hi everyone, you're watching another episode of Trade Australia. I'm your host, Lawrence Christoffelsz. Trade Australia is always brought to you by Australian Trade and Logistics Corporation. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a really important topic for all Australian companies, but not just Australian companies. It affects all importers and exporters around the world. It's modern slavery, reporting of forced labour and human trafficking, and how all those things impact supply chains all around the world. To kick off today's program, I'm delighted to be joined by Michelle Lam, who's a project officer for AASYP. She's going to tell you about AASYP and about this fantastic new initiative that they've got called Break the Chain. Hi Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me, Lawrence.
Absolute pleasure. I know we've had Michelle on the show before, and I love what AASYP's doing. We're a really proud supporter of AASYP. So for the viewers at home, Michelle, let's talk about AASYP first and what that stands for and what you're all about.
Yeah, so AASYP is the ASEAN Australian Strategic Youth Partnership, and we're a youth organisation of about 50 volunteers from across the ASEAN region and Australia who are working to bring together young leaders from across the region and provide tangible opportunities for youth to engage in international affairs. We have three kind of pillars, which are to inspire engagement, build knowledge, and create long-lasting, meaningful relationships. Our key events across the year have been the ASEAN Australian Young Leaders Forum, which has garnered 950 applicants for just 40 delegate positions. And one of our most recent events, which was AASYP Reset, which was a hackathon, which had 1,000 participants and over 300 teams present a policy pitch to a panel of judges.
Fantastic. I know that you're a really inspiring, dynamic group of 50 people, and the future leadership of not just Australia but that whole ASEAN region is in very good hands. So congratulations, Michelle. And I know we were speaking off air that you got involved after seeing Michaela's interview earlier in the year. So that's take a small bit of credit for that, which is good.
Now, look, it was very inspiring. I was very, very charmed.
Well, I know, Michaela, when we spoke earlier about that, we talked about the Break the Chain, but let's take a step back because some of the viewers who will watch this episode may not have seen Michaela's interview. So tell us about the Break the Chain initiative and how it's changed since earlier in the year.
So the Break the Chain initiative is an initiative that focuses on bringing together young leaders who are already involved in modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labor, and bringing them together and creating a network of young leaders who can lead, future regional solutions in tackling these kind of issues. Obviously, if you haven't watched the previous episode, Michaela first pitched this program as an in-person forum that was going to occur in Indonesia. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic, that's not really possible anymore. So we've actually moved the entire program online, and we've changed it a lot since then. We've now shrunk the 6-month program, into a 1-month program and made it very intensive. So it will go pretty much the whole day every Saturday from January to February 2021.
Great. Sorry, go on.
No, there are some really exciting key events that we have in the Break the Chain program, including crisis simulations, webinars, and workshops. And we've obviously engaged many, many amazing partners from across the region, including the Ethical Trade Alliance, which Lawrence is part of, and also other ASEAN organizations such as RUMAFE.
Great. Yeah, there's some wonderful stuff that you guys are putting together, and I know how you've had to restructure everything from scratch because of COVID. So congratulations on reworking the whole structure in the program and make it a condensed online version. So congratulations to you and the team, Michelle. Now,
thank you so much.
What are you hoping for as outcomes in the modern slavery space? What is the program hoping to achieve?
So I guess the program is hoping to achieve a couple of key goals. Firstly, we hope to promote thought leadership in young professionals and emerging leaders. And as mentioned before, we want to create a community of driven and engaged youth across ASEAN and Australia. We're also hoping to develop and give the next generation of professionals and academics in modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labor the skills and networks they need to succeed and promote that interregional collaboration that we think is so crucial to developing a solution to these issues that plague us all. And we hope to achieve these goals through two primary outcomes. The first of which is a communicate on youth perspectives, which we hope to be able to bring to organizations across the region, which I think will offer unique youth perspectives on kind of the solutions that we think are really necessary. I think youth, above all other groups, have such an important role to play in addressing these issues as the next generation of people who will be tackling them. And we also hope that our delegates will be able to produce op-eds on the issues, particularly on issues that affect their specific countries. So if a delegate comes from Indonesia, we hope for them to be able to write an op-ed on an issue in Indonesia that they hope to solve and and apply what they've learned during our program to a solution that they hope to be able to bring to their country.
Yeah, wonderful. I think, as you say, Michelle, it is the youth whole sector plays such an important role, not just in the modern slavery and the labour practices, but also in the sustainability piece, and they're very much intertwined. I think if companies are looking at their whole corporate social responsibility, modern slavery, labour practice, forced labour is all at the very top of that project, but they need to then look at the whole operation and the impact that the whole business has around the world. So it is a really important, and I love the way that your whole group with ASAP are driving this across the region. You guys are doing some fantastic jobs in being role models for many, many leaders across the region in business to make sure that they take this very seriously and do what they need to do to improve their business and the practices around. So congratulations on that. Tell us about how can people get involved with Break the Chain, and what can companies and other organisations do to support you and the whole ASAP group?
So particularly if you're an organisation, you probably have young people that you're employed, and those people are probably very engaged and driven. If you have those kind of people in your organisation, we would love for you to recommend our program to them and have them apply for our program, because those sort of young people who are already deeply invested in this issue, who are kind of working at the face of it, are exactly the sort of applicants we want to see in our program. We also hope to be able to partner with some corporations and get kind of their unique perspective on the business side of dealing with modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labour. I think that, as Lauren touched on, dealing with modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labour in the supply chain is something that businesses inevitably have to do, and are the group and organisations that are best equipped to deal with that issue and provide advice on that. We also would love to have their support, whether that be in forms of networking through our developing our alumni community, or in the forms of sponsorship if you have the capacity.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, we want to recommend and put the word out on this show to all the other corporations, not just in Australia. I mean, you guys are doing everything across the whole 10-member ASEAN region. So, there'll be viewers of this show in those countries across ASEAN who would love to participate. And I'm sure they'd love to hear the innovative ideas, because that's the whole purpose of this Break the Chain, is to get, as you said, get that ideas and get the dialogue happening in each of those countries, and then really inspire change throughout all those countries and supply chains.
I think you've hit that exactly on the point. Couldn't have said that better myself.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, look, tell us about the time frame. I know that there's an application process, and tell the viewers about the website and how they can get in touch.
Yeah, so if you go onto the AASYP homepage, if you click under programs, you will be able to find the AASYP Break the Chain program, and there we'll have the full details, including a brief schedule of what the program looks like and our application form. Applications close November 30th, 2020, so be sure to get your applications in before then.
Great. And is it limited to any number of participants, or it's open to as many people who can apply, and then you'll work with them as you can?
We're looking for, in total, 40 delegates from across ASEAN and Australia. So I think it will be a fairly competitive process, but we can't wait to see who actually comes and applies.
Great. All right. Well, thanks so much, Michelle. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show representing ASAP. I know we've had Michelle before, and Dana's doing some great work. Cameron, all of you as a group are very inspirational, and hats off to you. So great. Good luck with all the program. We'll keep promoting it from our side. And we're proud partners with that, with Ethical Trade Alliance too. So thanks again, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Great. So there you've heard from Michelle Lam from AASYP. They're doing some amazing work, not just in Australia, but they really are showing leaders how to go about improving modern slavery, improving their innovative ideas, and they're driving it from the youth. So that, there's so much great opportunity for companies to embrace these new ideas and hear from the youth within their organisations in those 10 ASEAN countries about how collectively we can all do something to improve the lives of workers all around the world. So stick around. After this break, we'll be joined by another important guest. Take care.
With over 20 years of combined recruitment experience, Bastion is your trusted advisor for sourcing leaders. Technical experts in supply chain recruitment, Bastion uses a proven customer-focused delivery. Speak to a consultant today for your recruitment needs. Bastion, experts in sourcing leaders that deliver change.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching another episode of Trade Australia. Joining me now is Paula Rogers, the Global Sustainability Lead at ATI Group. Hi, Paula. How are you?
Good, Lawrence, and yourself?
Great. I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, Paula. Can you tell us about the Apparel Textiles Industry Group, the ATI, and let us know about what you're doing there with the ATI Group and why sustainability is so important to you?
So ATI Group is a boutique consultancy that advises fashion and textile businesses, predominantly actually brands and retailers in Australia, to help them to recognise their sustainability ambition strategically, and actually also for them to, provide assurances to the market, whether that's investors or consumers, that they're managing their climate risk and also their social impacts.
Great. And what about the situation around COVID and how that's impacted this whole transparency and supply chains, especially in the textile sector?
So the fashion industry has, like many other sectors, has faced a great deal of issues in this year. I think what we've seen from a market perspective is that sales, depending on which kind of retail space a business is working in, has kind of impacts. So there's been a reduction of probably about 20% in the market, or up to 2% in the market. But what we're seeing is that if you look at bricks and mortar retailers versus e-commerce, there's definitely a very stark difference in how being challenged. So if you look, say, for instance, at a brand like Mosaic Brands, which is a listed ASX retailer who has Katie's and Rockman's and a few others. From about 2016 to 2019, their share price increased from $1 to $3. So they enjoyed really, quite fantastic growth during that time. But COVID hit at the beginning of this year, and their share price actually plummeted to 19 cents. Now, it's rebounded, and it's sort of heading back up close to $1 again. But the challenge for that business is the volatility. And so all of the ground that they've made up in their business in the last 5 years has really been wiped. On the flip of that, if you look at, say, like an e-commerce business like Kogan at the beginning of the year had a share price of about $5. It went up as high as $25. It now sits about $20. So what you're seeing is huge market volatility. And that also, I guess that disparity or difference between one kind of retailer and another is actually having huge impacts on the supply chain, where one retailer can't quite get enough product and the other one. The challenge for a lot of fashion businesses is that they're very focused on brands and bricks and mortar, and so the impacts have been quite huge in places like Bangladesh, where workers have been, very greatly impacted.
Yeah. It sounds like there's definitely a major challenge that has emerged for the whole fashion sector, as you pointed out, Paula. What about Australia's contribution to these global supply chains and the sustainability piece, and what's Australia's role in this, and what are we doing on a global level?
So I think when you look at fashion and textile supply chains, you're actually looking at a global supply chain, and whether you're an Australian-based retailer or a European or a US retailer, we all sort of feed into the same system. So let's look at it globally. Globally, the industry produces about 120 billion garments every year. That contributes somewhere in the region of 8 to 10% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. So when you look at that, and also the trajectory that the industry is growing, at this current rate, it's probably going to sit somewhere by 2050 at about 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So if you think of our global carbon budget, and fashion accounts for 25% of that, that's pretty huge if we continue the way we're going. The other side of it is that if you look at it from a social perspective, the industry employs around 75 million people around the world. And somewhere in the region of 16 million of those are considered to be in modern slavery conditions. So that's quite significant. It's about 20% of our workforce. So decent working conditions is an issue. If I bring that back then to an Australian context, we actually in Australia import around just over a billion pieces of garments each year. So we actually represent about 1% of like that bigger picture. And so we do contribute quite significantly.
So Paula, what are the things that brands can do and retailers can do to address the sustainability issues across their businesses?
So I think a lot of businesses actually in Australia and around the world there's a great deal of fear in this space because there's a lot of unknown. And, the fashion industry is very focused on price and, like most businesses, making money. But I do think that if businesses really ignore the challenges of sustainability, I think they'll increasingly see more of this kind of volatility in the market and how their business responds to it. So if I were advising a business today, if we were looking at businesses that are that turn over more than $100 million each year, they are subject to the Modern Slavery Act of 2018. That act requires businesses of all kinds in Australia, and government in fact, to take responsibility and to map their supply chain and also map their social impacts, including modern slavery risk. I think there's a very simple thing actually that businesses can do, which is also while they're mapping their social risk, they could also map their environmental risk, then step back and take quite a much broader look at what their risk profile is, and then actually prioritize it. And that's really actually what ATI Group does, is actually help them to navigate their way through that process. Fantastic.
It sounds like, as you say, companies, they're aware of the risk, they really don't know how to tackle it or who to turn to. So ATI Group, in that whole textile fashion space, it sounds like you can really help them put in place the right assessments, and therefore that almost like a gap analysis about where they need to start with first, it sounds like. So it sounds very powerful. Can I ask Paula, just before we wrap up, do you believe that there's a consumer, or let's call it an ROI? Yes, there's a Commonwealth Act and Modern Slavery Act and the reporting, but I think many more companies are also seeing the return on investment they can get from increased sales, increased consumer and brand support, if you like, if they can demonstrate to the market and to potential consumers that they are supporting more ethical, sustainable behaviour across their brand. Do you see that happening as well, especially in the fashion sector?
I think consumers today are increasingly becoming frustrated with their lack of options in how they engage with their brands on issues around recycling and other kinds of I guess, being part of the story and part of the solution, actually. So if you take, for instance, looking at waste, well, most retailers in Australia hand over their product stewardship responsibility at point of sale, and they don't really get involved in the waste aspect. So actually, it's charities that take up that responsibility to make money for their programs. But the challenge is, in Australia, 94% of that product is actually shipped offshore and only 6% is sold in local charities. Now, the challenge there is that when it actually goes offshore, the trade is far from ethical. And so it can actually touch modern slavery quite quickly once it enters into those markets. So I think finding ways for consumers to be much more engaged in that process and giving them opportunities to participate in it is going to be increasingly important, and actually a great way for brands to engage more with their consumers and have real conversations, not sort of greenwashing ones that, try to placate them.
Yeah, totally agree. Thanks so much, Paul. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. What's the best way? We'll have many viewers who are in the textile/fashion sector, not just in Australia, but around the world. What's the best way they can get in touch with you and ATI?
Actually, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm an avid poster of all things textile and fashion sustainability. So I'm always very happy to receive anyone's connection.
Fantastic. Look, it's been an absolute delight, and it is an increasing problem, but also an increasing opportunity for companies to really increase that awareness and take more ownership, as you say, that full product life cycle of the brand. And congratulations on all the fantastic work you're doing, Paula.
Thanks, Lawrence. Great to be with you.
Great. Likewise. Thank you. So there you've heard from Paula Rogers. Some amazing tips and insights around what ATI are doing to help the whole fashion industry become more sustainable and how they can help that business really improve the way that they do business for all their consumers and other stakeholders. Coming up after the break, I'll be joined by Frances Atkins, who's the co-founder and director at Giveable. So stick around. We'll see you straight after this break.
With over 20 years of combined recruitment experience, Bastion is your trusted advisor for sourcing leaders. Technical experts in supply chain recruitment, Bastion uses a proven, customer-focused delivery. Speak to a consultant today for your recruitment needs. Bastion, experts in sourcing leaders that deliver change.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching another episode of Trade Australia. This episode's all around ethics and sustainability across global supply chains. Joining me now from Sydney is Frances Atkins, the co-founder and director at Giveable. Hi Frances, how are you?
Hi Lawrence, I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining me and good to speak to you again.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Frances, I'd love to tell the viewers about Giveable and, let's maybe explain what Giveable's about, why you started it and why you're so passionate about it to kick off.
Yeah, sure. So Giveable is a data-driven technology platform, and what we're doing is we're capturing the sustainability and also social attributes of suppliers in one place, and we map them to widely used reporting frameworks. So the SDGs and ESG indicators under a number of different frameworks. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons. We know that many businesses today and governments are setting targets around sustainability, and the targets are typically multi-dimensional. So they cover environmental sustainability to diversity and inclusion, to ethical sourcing, to social impact and social benefit and governance. And so we really need to help them spend or purchase and procure in this way. And we're really designing our platform to make that easier for them. So not only can they find suppliers that help them achieve their objectives, but they also know how that spend fits within these reporting frameworks. So when it comes time to communicating their progress to stakeholders, it's much easier for them to do that.
Yeah, that's powerful because it's such a challenge. Everyone, from a broad-based perspective, everyone, sort of talks about CSR, sustainability, ethics, but what does that actually tangibly mean when it comes to an organisation? So what I love about Giveable is that you give them that dashboard, if you like, and that real visibility in a true sense of the word about how they can make the right decisions from that perspective.
That's absolutely right. Yep. And the addressable spend in this space is increasing. I mean, we all know procurement spend is huge. You know, it's the second largest cost after employee costs. So it is a large spend. But now just in the different categories, we're seeing, you know, the percentage of spend go from 3% for some social categories up to 100% of the spending in some environmental categories. So this is an increasingly important space for many business customers and therefore, you know, many businesses supplying to those customers.
Yeah, and I think that's the other side of the fence as well, Frances, is that, as you mentioned, the businesses who are doing the right thing can really put their hand up and say, look, you know, include us, count us, because, you know, we are doing the right thing and we want to be not accredited, but at least taken seriously for that and being acknowledged for the good work that they are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
So who are the typical type of people who approach Giveable, and what are the type of, are they doing it from the carrot and stick, or, you know, we talk about the Commonwealth Act and sustainability drivers and all those sort of things. Are they approaching you, in what's the sort of balance between the ones who want to do the right thing and want to go out and say, look, Frances, can you help us identify the right suppliers and do this proper assessment? Or is it that they're doing it out of fear? Is that something that, you know, you have any sort of feeling on?
Yeah, look, I think on the customer side at least, I think we're finding they're coming to us at two different points. So either they have already set targets and now they need a practical way that can actually help them meet them. And so we become part of that story because we help them find and then we help them track those outcomes. Then we have other types of clients that they know that responsible business or responsible sourcing is on the agenda. They know that they're likely to have more KPIs and more targets in this space. They're starting to develop their policies around responsible and sustainable procurement. And so they're coming to us and trying to understand what's on offer for them that's going to make their life a little bit easier as they look at this complex area. So they're the types of clients that are coming to us. And often, because this is becoming a fairly crowded space, there's a lot of noise in sustainability. And so it is difficult for a buyer, particularly when a lot of them have thousands of suppliers, to really understand and assess these credentials. So we're finding that they're coming to us and asking us questions about, well, what sort of credentials should I actually be looking for if I'm purchasing this type of product or this type of service in this type of industry? And then again, on the supply side with suppliers, they're also saying to us, look, we're going to a lot of effort to make sure that, you know, we're operating sustainably or that we are supporting social initiatives. What is the best thing for us to do in terms of what credentials should we be getting so that that is recognised and that is visible to our customers? So we see ourselves as a place where we can help support both sides and then thus bring them together.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think that even from an investment point of view, and as you say, corporate stakeholders and so forth who are involved, you know, they all want to make sure that the people that, or the companies they invest their dollars with or they're buying shares with, are looking to have that sort of real, tangible visibility. And I think that's something that, again, it sounds like Giveable's got that real toolkit, if you like, that will help with all those external stakeholder engagement as well, to give them peace of mind that the procurement side of the business is being properly and really in a detailed way being looked at.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it is hard for businesses to, you know, this is an evolving space and it is really hard to keep pace with some of this stuff. And, you know, there's legislation, there's targets, there's voluntary requirements, there's mandatory requirements. And so, you know, they're looking for tools and they're looking for credentials and certifications that are going to help guide their thinking and their processes because, you know, for them, as I said, a lot of them have thousands of suppliers. It is very difficult to do that sort of audit process on their own. So increasingly they're looking at third-party you know, certifications on this stuff.
Yeah, wonderful. So, Frances, what would you, what's the message out there to the viewers here who are importers, exporters? They're probably trying to, work with buyers of SMEs and even bigger corporations here in Australia. What's the best way they can find out more about Giveable? Are there any tips and advice you'd like to give them as well? And what's the best way they can navigate this space?
Yeah, what I say to a lot of businesses is I think really you should be looking at the attributes or credentials that make sense for your business based on the industry that you're operating in. So if you're looking at, how can you increase visibility from a sustainability perspective and what should those credentials look like? First, look at what makes sense from an operating perspective in your business, and that should guide you to the right types of credentials that make sense for your business. The second thing is, in terms of finding out more about us, that's easy. You can go to our website. We're www.giveable with 2 V's in the middle.com. There's plenty of information there. And look, we are happy to. We have a community manager on the supply side that is happy to talk to suppliers to see what their eligibility is like to be on the platform. And also if they have questions around, the types of credentials that corporates are looking for, we're happy to engage in that conversation and really guide the supply side on that.
Wonderful. Look, I'm sure that, as you mentioned, and all the guests have mentioned on today's show, is that it is a really tough industry space to navigate. And, as you mentioned, there are people who are helping with sustainability, help with other things, but to really bring it all together in one central spot, I think Giveable's doing an amazing job with that. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So thanks so much, Frances, for being on today's episode. And for all of you out there, as you've just heard, there are a number of ways you're going to be measured and benchmarked against. So by having the access to work with an organisation like Giveable, you've got that opportunity to have a really independent, tangible way that you can measure your business, whether it's as a supplier or as a procurement team. So get in touch with Frances and her team, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you really navigate this increasingly challenging space and really make the most out of your business with that. So thanks so much, Frances.
Thank you.
We'll take care. We'll speak again soon.
Bye.
So you've just heard from Frances Atkins from Giveable. They're doing some amazing work in providing real visibility, real matrix around the ethics and sustainability across a whole range of supply chain and CSR matrix details. So I hope you found today's episode really educational and informative and supports all of you importers, exporters, and even supply chain partners about how you might be able to improve the ethics and sustainability of your global supply chain. There are amazing organisations out there who are able to help you to navigate this space and really improve the way your business operates. So reach out to all of them, support what Michelle's doing with AASYP as well about the whole Break the Train program. They're doing some wonderful things around the world. This project with Indonesia, get in touch and see how you can help and support that important initiative. Thanks again for watching another episode of Trade Australia. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.
With over 20 years of combined recruitment experience, Bastion is your trusted advisor for sourcing leaders. Technical experts in supply chain recruitment, Bastion uses a proven customer-focused delivery. Speak to a consultant today for your recruitment needs. Bastion, experts in sourcing leaders that deliver change.